right, well, welcome everybody. Today is Thursday, November 12th, and we're here with Lunchtime Topics brought to you by the Creative Coast. And today we have a special guest, Mark Williams, who is a new community member to Savannah and the Creative Coast, is stepped up to teach us about his experiences starting, developing, and selling his the three businesses that has successfully been acquired. So we're really fortunate to have Mark here. He's going to talk to us about your big idea was the easy part, how to grow and create a sustainable business. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
Thanks, Kate. Can everybody hear me okay? Just, I hope that's all good. Appreciate the introduction. Thanks to everyone for joining today's lunchtime topic. So I'll be just, my intent here is I want to give you guys some insight as to the good, the bad, and the ugly that I encountered over a span of roughly, I've been in technology and building companies now for a little over 3 decades. And over the course of that time, I built 3 companies, as Kate said. And we sold one to Harris Corporation, one to IBM, and one to the Seed Group, which is an overseas conglomerate. So 2 of those were VC backed, one was bootstrapped. So just to give you some indications, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the whole VC side of it. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but that's a much larger topic than that. But what I'd like to do here during this call is kind of present to you the truth and the reality of what it takes to build an organization out, make it sustainable, and take it to wherever you want it to go, and answer any of your questions you might have for me. So without further ado, if you look at it, so my thing is while every entrepreneur thinks they've got the greatest idea and that they can go out and do this themselves, the best thing I can tell you is to surround yourself with some really brilliant people. The best, you want to get a partner or partners that have differing skills than yourself, that maybe, where you might not be the shining star, where they are the shining star, so you can complement each other. Because for the long haul, it's really going to pay for you guys to have a team, not just an individual. It becomes increasingly daunting with everything that you're going to have to do. I mean, I'll be the first one to tell you, building out the companies that I did over the span of time, I learned the most I ever did, more than I ever learned in going to school. And while it was the most gratifying and most satisfying, it was also some of the most painful time and hard times that I encountered. But I wouldn't trade anything for those opportunities and experiences. But what I will tell you is you really want to find yourself a partner or partners that you're going to be able to team up with that are interested in achieving the same things, have a common belief, understand the rigor that you're going to have to go through, have similar aspirations in that, but you complement each other. I'm not going to go into the details as far as, the sustainability and that of, whether or not you can make your company survive. But what I will tell you is the first years are the hardest, and it does get easier over a term of time, but it does not, you have to stay focused and continually move forward. So that's what I'm going to say about building out an organization. You want to get your core team, get it in place as early as you can, and really be a cohesive group, and understand that at times you're going to not even like each other. I'll be very candid. Other times they're going to be closer to you than your family. But you've got to look at this from the sustainability standpoint. So, and where you are and where you want to go. Sorry. Next thing is, what I'll tell you is what you probably read, and again, a lot of this, there's a lot of information out there on starting a business and what it takes to do it. And I would be the first to tell you this is I do think a business plan is important, but I'll be very candid. I'm not a fan of business plans. I think that business plans, people put way too much weight in them. To me, a business plan is something that can be molded and continually changed and adapted and that it's like your business, because if you set something in concrete today, I can tell you after 12 months of being in business, that business plan will be no more worth than the paper that you put on it. Some of the strategies and principles related to it will be sound, but a business plan in today's environment, you need to be agile, you need to be disciplined, you need to be looking continually not to where you are, but where you're going to go, and you need to be able to adapt and change to that. And whether that means that you're changing out your approach or looking at how you're going to deliver your solution or what your business is, and or what, if you pivot and shift to actually what you were to what you're going to be. I mean, you might start out as X, but you might end up as Y. So I think a business plan is important, and it does put some formality to the process. So I think that that's important, but I think that you need to be cognitive of what really you're going to get out of it. You're going to need it for, yes, down the road for investment and stuff like that, but they're really going to be looking at other things on that. The other thing is if you're looking at how you're going to fund your organization and things like that, and you're talking about, the organizations are going to look whether you're profitable. What they're really interested in is what your burn rate is. How much I've got sales, but what are you really burning through on a monthly basis? So that's more of a key indicator of that than really just your profitability. Yeah, from that standpoint. I would tell you, first of all, and most, be realist. Don't fool yourself. You got to stay positive and you got to believe in that, but be realist when it comes down to is, where you are from a, standpoint organizationally and where you need to go. I would tell you, be bullish, as I said, as far as sales and/or getting your solution and/or services out there. And then really defining who your optimal customer is. I mean, you need to really decide who is your optimal customer, whether it be some specific vertical or business or within consumers, what specifically you're trying to get them to buy from you and that. And I think that that's important. I mean, if you don't understand who your customer is, you're not going to be successful. So I would say that's it. The other thing is as you look at getting investors, whether I would look at doing everything you can to fund your organization as far as you can go without going immediately to VCs. Once you go down that path, and I've built 2 companies in conjunction with VCs. You enter a new realm, and you change the whole dynamic of how your organization operates, expectations put on it. There's just a lot of other things. So if you can bootstrap it, amongst your inner circle, if you can fund it internally that way. If you can get families and friends, because again, VCs want equity and they want a return, and they want it usually within a window of time that they define. So they're not going to just allow you to go forever and not realize a gain. And there's 2 ways that they're going to get it. They're either going to sell you, or you're going to go IPO. And if you do that, that's a whole other different venture as well. So you have to understand that. So when you're going down that path. So again, understand the best way for you to fund your organization for as long as you can. And again, if you are making sales and you can have those sales be the basis of how you're funding your organization, that's even better. Get it started out, get your product out there, your services, and start delivering them, and having your sales be the basis of how you're funding your organization and the perpetuation of how to grow it in that. The other thing I think you need to do is each as a member of the leader of an organization, you need to become really cognitive of who you are. But I mean, and what it means. So that's why I say do the 5 steps. Build a personal mission statement, educate yourself, learn as much as you can about everything surrounding the organization, your competitors, the market, where it's going, what are the new things that are out there, if there's geographies involved, what are the localizations and things you need to look at from that perspective. So I think there's a lot of things you need to do from that. Then at the same time, get a network. I can tell you networking is key. It's not what you know, sometimes it's who you know. And I would tell you to get engaged on as many platforms and in as many areas as you can to build out a network. At the end of the day, organizations, VCs, while they're buying your product, they really are they're buying you. At the end of the day, they're investing in you. And the other thing you need to be cognitive is if you've got a great organization and they think that you've got a great idea, they could, if you get, VCs will come in and they'll say, okay, for us to propel this and move it to where they go, we're going to bring in some of our own people in leadership roles, and you've got to be willing to accept that. You've got to be willing to maybe not be the CEO anymore, but be maybe the CTO, or be a senior vice president of, business development or something like that. So you have to be cognizant of that, because a lot of VC firms have people that they use ongoingly in roles that they move from company to company that help them build it out and build it up. And so that's part of the reality of it. So you need to be aware of that. So the other thing you need to do is keep your options on the table. Keep, just as you head down one path and you think this is where your product or solution is going to take you, be cognitive that it might take you in a different direction and be able to pivot and react to that. And understand that, at the end of the day, this is really a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you got some time ahead of you, some road. So, and I would tell you, as I said at the very end, the devil's in the details. Everything. Don't leave anything for granted. Don't think. Pull up every rock. Do everything you can. But the devil's in the details. The other thing is, next thing is what I call the WWHs. Is who you are, what you do, and how you do it, and what differentiates you from your competitors. Everybody in your organization and attached to it should be able to recite these 3 things, and every one of you should be able to say the very same thing. I've ran into this, and it's really interesting. I went out and I've looked at companies. I've done it both for investors as well as just for my own interest in looking at what's out there and the possibility of investing in something. And I've talked to people in an organization, and it just amazes me the differing stories I'll get from 2 people in an organization tell me what they do and how they do it, and it's not the same thing. So I think that everybody, and what that tells me is somewhere you guys, there's been a disconnect as to really who you are and what you are trying to do and how you're going to try and get from where you are to where you want to go. Don't do that. Figure it out. Come together as an organization or a team and define who you are, what we do, and how we do it, and what differentiates us. Be able to recite this off. This is, some people would call it's kind of like the basis of your elevator pitch or whatever. But any investor, any possible customer, anybody should be able to ask you this, and you should be able to tell them, and everybody in your organization should be able to give the same information. The other thing is it gets back to the nuts and bolts. Building out an organization, like say that your idea is the easy part. There's a lot of moving parts to building out an organization. And what I would tell you is try and, it's hard. Having a team will help because you got to get your arms around all of it. But I would say, and we're fortunate because where we are within the overall market today, the ability to have services that can be outsourced and services that you can receive on a subscription basis, but do everything you can to outsource, and from a economically standpoint, look at it from what it costs me to buy it versus what it costs me to use a service. And you have to weigh that, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to get into a mode to where all these other things are distracting you from your core goal and viewing and focusing on what you're trying to accomplish with your organization and your service or solution. So, you don't need to go out and hire, an accountant to be a full-time person. Go out, there's plenty of services online as well as localized. Same with legal services, legal Zoom, whatever. There's a lot of services out there where you can do fractional if you need legal help on a fractional basis. Same thing with HR and recruiting, because those things require such specific knowledge sets. You don't have time to go out and become an accountant, to become an attorney, to also if you're, unless you're IT, to also look at what it means from an HR perspective. If you are going to hire employees, all of the employee law that you need to be aware of, and the do's and the don'ts and things like that, and any types of statutes you need to be aware of. Just it can be overwhelming. Same thing with marketing. You can get into fractional marketing. Do that if you need to. A lot of free services out there too. Find, what I would say is get yourself also mentors across the board. Build an advisory group, get them engaged. There's a lot of guys that, equally like me, that have got, quite a bit of experience in that are looking to how they can, play it forward and help younger organizations be successful, and they're willing to do it, as a means to really just stay engaged. So, go out and look at it and do it. The other thing is look at being, if you're, again, depending upon the organization, whether you want to be virtual or brick and mortar. I would say unless you're a retailing and or need to have a physical presence, go virtual. Last company I had, the very last one I had, was 100% virtual. I would tell you, it has a lot of other value propositions to it, but just from having the ability to hire a global workforce, as well as unencumbering from being locked into a physical space, and that, I get the social aspects of building out a team in that, but there's other ways to do that. My team got together on a monthly basis where we would, and there's plenty of these things where you can have meeting sites that you can, again, fractionally use. And that, I think there's a couple in Savannah even, where you can go in and use a conference room or do things like that. But there's no reason to have a, brick and mortar spot to where you're paying money for it, for the rent for it, and all of those other pieces of aspect, unless it's part of what you're doing. If you're a retail location, you got to do it. But unless you're not, and that, until you get to a certain point, I would highly suggest you to really consider being a virtual organization. Say that, again, you make sure that you're doing all the things you need to be, that you've incorporated your business appropriately, that you've got all of your licenses, got all of all the permitting that you need, and that you've got everything set up to pay your appropriate taxes, whether that be federal, state, and or otherwise. Sales tax, things like that, even foreign, if you're doing sales overseas, other implications in that as well. Other thing I think you need to really look at is whether you're going to do employees or contractors. My belief is if you're small, I would try and tell you to go to a contracting mode. Save yourself all of the things that you need to do if you're going to have employees. It's not just about the procedural pieces of it, but it's the ongoing things you need to do if you have employees versus if you have contractors, and things like that. So I would really look at that. Again, funding, I talked about, bootstrapping, family and friends, crowdsourcing, incubators. There's some great vehicles out there for you. Even if you find somebody that's an angel investor or something like that, somebody that's really interested in what you're trying to accomplish and is willing to invest money, because again, anytime you start going down formalized channels of investing, maybe you can do also an SBA, a small business administration loan, things like that in today's amount. But you need to have some term of time before you really approach that on an SBA loan. And I'll be candid, I never did an SBA loan. The organizations we built it first monetarily by bootstrapping ourselves, and then we went to the VC market. So, one business we went through 72 or 73 VCs before we got to the final one that actually became our primary partner. And the other one, we had one primary VC that was from us from day one. I have a pretty good, I would say also get a business checklist. You can find them online. If anybody has an interest one, I'm more than happy to give it to Kate. I've got the one that I picked up that I found that's pretty good from Inkfile, and I'm more than willing to pass it on. It just gives you good information. It's a good something to kind of run through, check off these boxes, make sure that we're doing all the right things and stuff to get where we need to go. Next thing is every organization needs to be able to do these things. Every successful organization, if you go out and look at it, needs to be able to do these things to have sustainability and to survive. You need to build a discipline of having financial rigor and understanding that it's about bottom line performance and how you're going to continually improve on each of the numbers as you go down the road. You have to be disciplined as far as your fiscal management and oversight and decisions. Facts need to drive decisions, not emotions. So, everybody, you've got to try and separate that. And sometimes you're going to have to make some hard decisions that are not going to be something emotionally you might want to do, but you're going to have to do them. That's the reality of it. I in my own story, I mean, I had with the second company, I had a guy that was just a really good person. He really and that, but he wasn't really good in the role he was at, and I wanted him to be something he wasn't. And it wasn't because he didn't want to try and do it; he just didn't have the skill set to do it. And we had to let him go. And it was, that's just one of the things. I mean, and it was just really hard. It was, and that. But there are sometimes you're going to have to make decisions that you're going to still be grappling with after you made them. And then, align your organization to support your business strategy. It's all about from where you are to where you need to go and aligning your organization, your team appropriately. And again, while I say it as a team, there are leaders, but you need to be collaborative. You need to do it on a consensus basis and come to a mutual agreement. And sometimes not everybody is going to agree, but you need to come to a decision that this is the path you're going to go, and get the support then from the other members that is the way you're going to go. Create a culture of accountability. Everyone should be accountable, and everyone is responsible. So you're accountable to yourself, you're accountable to each other, you're responsible for doing the things that you say you're going to do and getting them done. There's no, okay, too bad, so sad, or the organization as a whole ends up paying for it. So, just be aware of that. Next thing is understand that customers are center and should be at the focus, at the center of everything that you think about. Your customers need to be at the center. You need to listen to them, you need to learn from them, and you need to act accordingly based off of the two previous scenes by what you've learned, what you've listened to, and what you've learned. You need to be able to deliver high quality products and or services. You need to have your organization become customer centric and culturally driven to being customer centric. And it isn't something that it's not a buzzword. It is about walking the walk and talking the talk and doing the things that you say you're going to do and sticking to them. And sometimes that's hard. I mean, sometimes it's painful, but you need to be able to do it because every You need to think of it from perspective that every customer needs to be referenceable. So if somebody says, who are your references? You just give them a sheet with every customer you got and say, they're all referenceable. Which ones do you want to contact? There are no non-referenceable clients, because if there are, they'll end up finding them. They'll find them, and you don't want that to happen. You know, as part of that, focus on the organization's process and products on customer needs. How does your customer benefit and realize benefits from what you're doing for them, or what the product that you've got is doing for them? And how can you continually perpetually move that forward and make it a better experience? Because as everybody well knows, do you know what I mean? Organizations are always going to perpetually have expectations that whatever you do next is going to help them be better than where they were. It's continual process improvement. So you need to keep that in mind. So finally, the other thing is, you've got to have the mindset that, and the capability to support critical business objectives. It's really about being able to do, do critical thinking. Think about, what you need to do and where you need to do it and how you need to do it, and how to retain and attract talent that is indispensable. Again, you want to be able to, I always said, I want to recruit and hire people that are all smarter than myself. I want to be the dumbest guy in the room, because if I circle myself with a lot of talented people around me, I know that we're going to be successful. Provide continual growth experience and opportunities for them to grow and be challenged. You know what I mean? Make it to where, not their job doesn't have to be easy, but you want to make it to where they're challenged and that they've got the ability to grow and learn. Provide clear goals. I mean, if you're going to have employees, make sure you got clear goals, set expectations, make sure that you're, everybody agrees to them, and then operating under that premise. Raise your employee engagement to drive productivity, develop global mindset. Don't think about yourself in a very small manner. Think about, on a global basis, where you are and where you fit within the larger ecosystem as far as what your services and or product does, and how you can become a player within that. Align your rewards and recognition. I mean, pay people well for doing hard and good work. I mean, don't pay for just, below par services. I mean, you'll end up, you won't exist. I mean, you're going to ask people, I mean, you've got to be realistic. You're going to ask people to work harder and do more things than they thought that they probably could. And you got to understand that that's part of the reality of it. And so it's not a life for the timid. So you also need to realize you're going to pay some things on a personal basis from a personal life standpoint. I would tell you from my own experience, it is a daunting process, and it can be hard on if you've got a spouse or if you've got a family if you've got kids, because your company becomes a child. It becomes your focus. It becomes where you make all the drive, and your spouse or partner needs to understand that and support that and be willing to take on some additional responsibility. So I would tell you, before you go down the path, have a serious conversation with the people that you care about and the people that you are taking on this journey with you, that they understand of what it means. So, you make it out the other end whole.